Yeah, man.
Welcome everybody. It's Josh. It's Simon or Simon. And we're also joined today by
Getting it.
Jacob Roberge. Please excuse me for not explaining it.
Man, you have to switch languages
I'm like a
as if
pro,
you would speak something else than English. Yeah.
like an Australian has to. How are you today, Jacob? Thank you so much for joining
I'm
us.
great, thank you.
So for those who are tuning in for the first time, Time Zones and Time Meters is roughly a weekly get together that Simon and I have. Usually, well, at least with ourselves, but we also bring guests, and we've got Jacob, who is well, I don't know what you'd call you. You're a progressive music fanatic, and you
Fucking
released
prodigy, musical prodigy.
yeah,
Yeah.
and he released an album last year, which was the first time that I had heard of him before, and his album took the world by storm based on what I saw. So many people were talking about it, so many people commenting about it, so I had to check it out, and it's really great. Um, so in the end, I think I followed you on Instagram. You happened to do the same back, and we ended up having a few discussions about a few things, including today's topic, which is, of course, him, but also the Deer Hunter. So we're going to be chatting about one of my favorite musical acts, and one of his as well. And we're going to be ranking the act series that they're responsible for. But look, thank you so much for joining us, Jacob. Thank you, thank you.
Hey, thanks for the invite.
Yeah, we're stoked to have you on board. So we should probably start with the passing, your album that you released. How long did it take you to put this together? Because it's pretty refined, mate. It's a cool album.
Thank you. In all, from the first note I ever wrote for this album, it was a journey of 10 years.
Wow.
So I started writing. The first thing I started writing was the title track, "The Passing." I was on my last year of I don't know how you call it in Australia,
Doesn't
but
matter.
high school. I was 16, and I was in a band where we would do mostly covers of hard rock bands. Like we would do Led Zeppelin and AC/DC, and we had a couple of original songs. But then I started listening to a bit of Pink Floyd and Rush, and I had just this crazy idea of doing a big conceptual piece out of nowhere.
Yeah.
So I started writing The Passing. I was 16 years old, and for about a year, I wrote, I would say, about a third of this whole song, maybe even half. Like there's some things I changed over time, but so I kept writing it just in my downtime. And then when we got to, I was 19 years old. Now I got more into progressive music. I discovered Steven Wilson, which gave me a big boost of inspiration.
Yep, boom.
So I wrote both Empty Traces and Petrichor.
Mm-hmm.
Then Garden of Souls came right at the end of my demo sessions in 2023. And I finished The Passing pretty much at the same time. So then recording the album, releasing it, everything. So it took me. I was 16 when I started, and I was almost turning 27 when I released it.
Yeah, right. Wow.
For the record, for the people that don't know, the title track is 32 minutes. Yeah, I think pretty much 32 minutes, right? Maybe an extra second. I don't remember. Yeah, yeah. So
I think it's
mean,
32 minutes and 4 seconds. I think.
There you go.
yeah. But that leads me to question, how did this whole musical journey start? Because, when did your musical interest start? Do you come from a musical family, or? Yeah.
I really don't. I come from a family that really loved music. So when I was growing up, my dad and mom listened to a bunch of different styles. My dad was mostly into rock and metal. He listened to a lot of Metallica and stuff that at the time was newer, like Slipknot and Disturbed. So I grew up with a lot of that. Linkin Park. And my mom was a lot into Bon Jovi and a couple of other styles of music too, like some I think it was like a tango duet from Quebec that was really interesting, and Michael Jackson, stuff like that. So I really liked music, but nobody in my family played any music. I played a bit of Guitar Hero, and then
Let's go.
one day I was like 10 years old, and I was singing in the shower. And when I came out of the shower, my mom asked me if I wanted to take singing lessons. So that's how it started. I took classical singing lessons for about 2 years, and then I got my first role in a musical in The Sound of Music, and that's when I really got the. That's when I really knew that music is what I wanted to do. Like,
Yeah.
I did about 60 shows of that, I think, in 2 years,
Wow.
and it was an amazing experience. So then
I can connect the dots
that's how
here.
it started.
I can connect the dots. Guitar Hero, and then singing lessons, and because if you look for you, if I look for you on YouTube, one of the videos that also pop up is you doing an a cappella version of "Carry On Wayward Son" by Kansas, which is, by the way, I mean, well, also a couple of other classical tracks. I don't this quite old videos, right? Like 10 years
Yeah,
old.
that's I did that during COVID. So right when COVID hit, the first video I released was Bohemian Rhapsody. Oh no, it was the second video. I think I did an a cappella version of "Smile." That was the first one. Then I did Bohemian Rhapsody, then Carry On Wayward Son, a couple of others. So that was my little COVID project while I didn't have a job. So
Well,
that
pretty
was
successful COVID
6 years
project,
ago.
though, right?
Yeah, it kind of... since there wasn't a lot to talk about, like on the radio and TV and everything, it got a bit of traction locally. So I was very happy about that. So that's why I kind of kept going, doing a bunch of videos. And then it helped me get into Star Academy, which is like our American Idol here in Quebec, the following year. So yeah, it was a little jumping off point for the rest of my career.
Yeah, that's awesome. So have you got plans for another album in the making, or are you going to spend another 10 years and not rush it? Or what's the plans moving from here after your success?
Yes, I do have a plan. I am writing right now. There are a couple things I want to do before releasing another album. Like I want to buy a house. That's the big thing, because releasing an album is not cheap. So I am taking my time with it. My guess is maybe in 3 years, maybe I would be able to do that. Because I am writing, but I'm not entirely happy with everything I'm writing. But that's just the normal process.
This is the process, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Like, I recently wrote an overture, which I'm super happy about. And I'm going to be playing at my 2 shows in Quebec and Montreal in the next month, which I'm very happy about. But, yeah, I'm just throwing around ideas, seeing what sticks. And
my favorite
not rushing
artists, whether or not it's music, whether or not it's like books or something as well, they tend to take their time. I'm not after something that's wham bam, let's go with the next thing straight away. I'd much prefer a piece of art to be like cultivated and brewed and experimented with, and sort of really refined, so that the artist feels really proud of it, right? So I'm excited to hear that. That's great to hear. And it sounds like you won't be a flash in the pan either because of it. So that makes me happy. So that's cool.
And
yeah, Simon, go.
I shoot. You have something.
No, go for it.
Well, I mean, so if you say that this might happen in a couple of years, are you doing other musical projects before then that maybe just put some, make your bread?
I'm doing a bunch of things. Like last year, I wrote a musical for a festival we have here in Quebec. It's called the Carnaval, which is like the kind of a celebration of Quebec winter. So I wrote a musical for that, and this year was the second year that we were producing that, so I kind of rewrote some stuff about that. And then I do a bunch of shows. I'm a musical director, so sort of like an orchestrator, arranger, and also a musician on stage that directs the other musicians. So I do a lot of work on that, and and I play in a couple bands. Well, I actually I sub different musicians in their own bands. So right before the interview, I was rehearsing. There's a band. It's a tribute to Luke Combs, the country artist. so I
Oh
play
yeah.
guitar in that. And then I have like a disco band that I'm a singer in sometimes. So yeah, a bunch of different projects in between the prog writing and everything.
Yeah,
And,
yeah,
and
yeah.
a really
No,
eclectic, different genres and different things, which is really cool. So that's good. You're not pigeonholing
Yeah,
yourself
I
either.
think for prog it's good to explore a
yeah.
bunch of different genres. Like we talked a lot about the Calandra, you and I on Instagram.
Yeah.
This has been my last 2 months. I've just been listening to that. It's such a style that I never discovered really, and now it's
Hooked,
inspiring a
okay.
bunch of different melodies and arrangements, and yeah, I love it.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool. I'm a big fan too. What were you going to say, Simon?
No, no. I also think. I mean, sometimes prog gets a little bit the reputation that it's music for musicians, but then I'm thinking, yeah, but that the musician who's playing the prog, that one has to have pull inspiration from elsewhere, right? From maybe, yeah. I mean, of course, in the past, in the olden days, it was jazz and classical, but it cannot be so much more. So I think the wider of a palette you have, the more progressive can you end up in the end. So yeah, I mean, super
Totally.
cool. All right.
So
Um,
should we jump into the Deer Hunter? What do you guys think?
yeah, what's
Yeah,
your
right.
relationship with Deer Hunter, Jacob?
I discovered them really about 2 years ago, I would say. Um, I knew the first two songs of Act 5, and I absolutely loved them, but I never thought to go further in their discography. So I knew these two songs. I showed these two songs to my friends. They loved it. Only listened to those two songs too. And then we kind of discovered the album together, and then went back to Act 4, and Act 3, Act 2, Act 1, and now I've been in love. Like, the last year, they were my band. Like, right now, Calandra is my band. Last year, Deer Hunter were my band. I was just listening to that. I kind of do that a lot, where I'll just listen to one band until I've
Exhausted them.
I've
You've
exhausted
killed-
them,
you've killed it,
then I
yeah.
move to something else.
Yeah.
Yeah, all right. So
I'm very similar. Yeah.
yeah, because you had also heard all these five, Josh, these five
So,
acts.
so for me,
Prior to
I
this?
discovered them in 2024 probably as well. So about the same time as you, Jacob, then I'm guessing. And I tried to get into them. So I tried Act 3 and I tried Act 2 and jumped around the place a little bit, but they just didn't click with me. And then I think I watched like a Rhyme Signatures episode, or like where he was rating like some of his, like Ian from Rhyme Signatures, who was rating some of his favorite like albums of all time, and he was raving about Act 4. So I thought, like, I've tried them, I couldn't get into it, but I never say never. Like, I'll go back. And so I did Act 4, which I hadn't done any of before, and I just fell in love. Like, it took very little time for me to fall in love with Act 4. So I played that lots, and then went on to Act 5 and went, this is freaking stellar. Then I went back and did 1, 2, 3. And what's interesting is, funnily enough, I think that experience was kind of perfect for me. So there's like a sweet spot around those latter two albums, which we'll discuss as we sort of rank the discographies and things as well. But my obsession sort of was in a reverse order, and they have been one of my most played bands since I've been recording music. They're number 3. So since I've been recording my listens, they're right up there, and I just think this series of acts is really good. So for those maybe at home that don't know the Deer Hunter. Oh, actually, Simon, you tell us about your experience with them, and then we'll
Yeah.
give a bit of an overview.
Because was until very recently, until we decided on this part of that population. So I also maybe around 2024 got them recommended to me. So I've listened to a couple of tracks from Act 3, I guess, and thought, this is good, but didn't really care to venture much deeper. Maybe I'll listen to that album, but didn't do much more than that. So I really had to have a shitload of listens here, because these are 5 long-ass albums, pardon my French, bilingual Jacob. But yeah, there was a lot to listen to here, and I mean, I don't know if I'm as amazed as you two guys. So, but you know, there's some good, there's some bad, and we'll get to that. What I did want to say was like the one thing that really that I noticed with this band is I really think it sounds like those emo bands that were big in like 2005. You know, like Fall Out Boy, Panic at the Disco, and I mean this is also around the time I think the Act One released in 2006, and also was parts of a emo band, like a
Yeah.
side project of an emo band.
So Casey,
Yes.
Casey originally was like, and that's one of his sort of call to, like calls. That's where he came from originally.
Yeah.
So there's definitely in the earlier albums, especially, there's a very strong vibe of that sort of stuff too. So
Yeah, yeah.
look, yeah, continue.
Yeah,
Please.
should we dive into it?
Look, I think probably best for those that are at home and listening who have never heard of the Deer Hunter before. This we're talking about a 5-act series that was released, and that's where it gets its name from. So the act is the Deer Hunter, and the name is Hunter is the protagonist's name. So this is a 5-part. It should be 6, but it's a 5-part conceptual masterpiece, I'd call it, but series of acts, which is based around the story of a young man named Hunter and his life, and I've heard it explained as a series of questionable decisions that just go wrong in this young protagonist's life. And so I think the win with this album, for those that love a concept album, is to definitely check this out, because this is a big concept. And I think that the story is at heart what makes this so powerful. And so what makes the music so good too. So for someone who listened to it backwards, the story's in a weird jumbled order, but it wasn't until I went back and did it from start to finish and really paid attention to the lyrics and also did some reading online about what this is about that it took on a new significance for me. Jacob, did you want to add anything? Was that an okay summary of it? What do you think as another fan?
That was great.
Yeah?
That was
Okay.
great.
So I guess the start of this series, so act number 1, is the lake south, the river north, or whatever it's called, I think it is.
Yep.
And this is where it begins. This one is shorter though, Simon. This one's only like 30 something minutes, I think. If I remember correctly, but in saying that, this is where the
It's
tone is
38 minutes, so it's
There
like
you
a
go.
standard LP. Yeah.
okay. So it's where the tone's kind of set, right? Like this is where the story sort of starts to unfold, and you find out that Hunter is the son of a prostitute who has run away from the city, and her past and her running away and trying to burn down her old workplace and escaping to have the child and raise him in isolation is kind of the beginning of the story. I'm not going to spoil the story in today's session, or I don't want to, but I think it's good to sort of set the tone of it. And this album definitely has an emotional connectivity to those core principles, which is sadness, misery, sacrifice, running away from, the demons of the world and trying to forge something new, but inevitably having to go back to it. And that's the scope of this album. And so what do you guys think about it? Like, maybe we can start with Jacob as the guest. We'll go to Simon and I can do a little wrap up. What do you think, mate?
Sure. Well, I like this album. That was the last one I really discovered. I kind of did like you. I actually started with Act 5 and then went backwards to Act 4. Then I got into Act 2, Act 3, and then Act 1.
Yeah.
So that was the last one I discovered. And you kind of feel that it's the first one. That would be my biggest, I would say, criticism of it. Like, the production is not quite there. The vocals have definitely improved since this album. He does have some great aggressive vocals in songs like City Escape and Inquiry of Mystery, I think. But yeah, I would say it's my least favorite of the acts. The story is very interesting, that I will say. but yeah, it's not as catchy as the other ones too. There are less choruses that kind of get stuck in my head like the other albums have, and the transitions between songs have improved since then too. That's one thing I really like about the later albums is how they transition from one song to the next, and they kind of do it in a unique way where it's not going to be the band like finding a way to get into the next song. It's kind of they almost kind of fade out, and then the orchestra comes in and for a little interlude. Then it flows into the next track. That's something I really like. But they're kind of more stiff in the 2 or 3 first albums. Sometimes you'll hear the end of a song and it's like, oh, okay, it's leading here, and then the other song starts out of nowhere.
Yeah.
That's so yeah, I would say that it's my least favorite. I still really like it, but I would say it's the weakest of the acts.
Yeah, okay. Simon, what do you think, my friend?
Yeah, I have to say that it didn't leave a super deep impression on me. I had to not think that this is not my least favorite. I had some notes about like the opening track with nice vocal harmonies. I did appreciate those vocal harmonies that Jacob does so maybe even better. But I mean, absolutely, I love harmonies, and one of the great things about this band is how they utilize that. Nice Hammond solo somewhere in maybe 1878. I believe. I have also noted that I thought, okay, this is a concept album. I start with the first album. I'm gonna understand this story. When did you started to understand this story, Josh? Because I didn't understand shizzle from this, like really nothing. Yeah.
Look,
I'm also an imbecile, so it could be it. But
no, far from it. So I think because I looked it up, and because I really decided to sort of research this a little bit as I did my replay from 1 to 5, like 2 years ago, everything changed for me when I did that. And then I started to realize that Casey, who I'm pretty sure wrote most of the lyrics as well, is delivering the vocals. He's because it's really his pet project, right? But the way that he builds the layers and the way he speaks in metaphors and the recurring motifs that go throughout the journey of this act series are really, really good. And they're good in a way that's not super cringy to me. Like maybe the topic is, or the story's a little bit like, really, what's going on? But I think he writes it in such a way that it's not. And so it's hard. Like if you just listen through it, you might not.
It's funny with the lyrical content they sing about how the church and the brothel is kind of the same.
Yeah.
I don't know, same person owning it or whatever. And then I have to think about like the concept album, according to me at least, Operation Mindcrime. Then it's also like this nun who's also a prostitute. Like there is something about that. But anyway, so this album, this is my number 3 in the
Number 3.
Oh, wow.
in my ranking. Yeah.
Okay. With this one here, I was hard pressed to like. I agree with Jacob. I think fundamentally, I think it's a bit rawer. It's not as well produced. I think it's a little bit more jarring, is a good way to put it. And also, I'm not a huge like emo vocalist fan. Like I never have found myself to be a big fan there. So when I first heard this, those things are a little bit of a turn off. Now, as I've matured a little bit over the last few years with just listening to a broad spectrum of different stuff, I've really come to like, it's found a place in my within that ear. But in saying it, I still don't think that this is his best work. But I think conceptually, it's really good. And the more I've listened to this, the more I think this first album has a place emotionally that maybe the third one, maybe the second one just doesn't quite reach in some ways. And I think it's the protagonist's story of his mum and that warring that I spoke about before that really, like, it just sort of hits a little bit harder, I think, than what some of the other stuff does, because it doesn't yet go into the realm of, that's really weird.
You know,
which which this does.
I have a metal background, right? So at this time, I was playing in metal bands, like thrash metal, heavy stuff, you know.
Yeah.
But I also actually appreciated these emo bands that came out at that time, and I actually thought that they were pretty progressive at that time because they, like Panic at the Disco, they actually have these titles. They don't. Yeah, I guess later on they used song titles that were actually the chorus, but otherwise it was "I write sins, not tragedies" or whatever they call it. It's kind of progressive. It's not, and this is of course even more progressive. But yeah, okay, I'm going off the rails here. Let's
Okay.
move on to
So I'll make
two.
so
Yeah,
I'll
yeah.
put this
Sorry.
in. No, it's totally okay. Look, this is the point of a discussion. Like if you're tuning in at home, we waffle sometimes. So I'm going to put this in at number, like my least favorite as well. I'm going to put this in at number 5. However, I reckon maybe in a year or two I might change my mind just because of the emotional depth that I think resonates with me a little bit more here. Let's move on to Act 2. So, Jacob, let's go. What are your thoughts on Act 2?
All right. Act 2, I really, really like. That's the third one that I discovered from the band, and right off the bat, every chorus from this album is super catchy, super aggressive. The vocals are great on this album. The production did take a step up from the first album too. There's some really great moment. The Bittersweet is one of my favorite moments from this album. There's a bunch of different styles. The melodies are very beautiful. Blood of the Rose too also has that tango influence that you would never see anywhere else. I really like every time they go into a different genre in their albums. We'll talk about a couple others in the other albums, but that's one moment that I really like. I would say it kind of loses me a bit at the end. It is a very long album. I think it's like an hour and 20 minutes.
Yeah.
And the last 2 tracks are probably, in my opinion, the 2 weakest on the album.
What ones were those?
It's Black Sandy Beaches and something Vessels Vindicated.
Yeah, that's right. Yep.
I have actually noted in that one sounds exactly like one of those free background music that you can choose for your YouTube tutorials.
Ouch.
It is kind of rough. It's better than that.
I think I know what song you're talking about.
Yeah, there is one of those standard, that are what do you call it? Open domains things that everybody uses for their tutorials. Sounds exactly like that track.
Oh, that's true. So yeah, I would say the last 2 tracks are probably the weakest on the album, and for me it does hurt the album a lot to have the end not make you want to go, okay, I want to listen to that right away again. So it almost lost a spot in my top because of that, but because all the songs are so great, it still landed in my 3 spot.
Yeah, okay. I quite like Black Sandy Beaches, by the way. That's funny. I'll talk about it later. Talk to us, Simon. Let's go.
Well, I'm not gonna spend a lot of time with that. I actually don't remember how Black Sandy Beaches sounded like, but what I did remember was Blood of the Rose sounded a lot like I Write Sins, Not Tragedies. Maybe something with with a short chord progression, or sometimes it could just be like a suspended chord or arpeggio that just that is used the same way. But I thought that was better than Act 1, so I put this on my wait.
Dum dum dum.
Did I change my mind here?
You must have.
Really. You know what? I'll quickly change shit around here. Act 1 is 3, and this one is sorry, Act 1 is 4 and this one is 3. That's absolutely how it is, how it
Okay.
should be.
All right.
I was speaking out of my ass with it previously. I'm sorry. This is number 3. This is number 3. Yeah, that's how it is. That's how it is. Sorry, Josh.
Okay.
Why don't you come with a faucet with a proper?
Look, I think this is a big transition and jump up. I really do. I think the sound is better. I think the concepts are stronger. Not concepts, maybe the musical concepts that are going on are stronger. I think this is where you really get into the whole, like, you know, the church / brothel / dynamics. He falls in love, you know, and so there's a bit of yearning and stuff which I really enjoy and like. To me, Red Hands is probably the strongest track in the album. I love that. I love that track. It just like connects a bit. I quite like, as I said, I like Black Sandy Beaches. So it's funny that you don't, but I appreciate why you don't. And I think that is my biggest issue with the album too, is whenever I've played it, I've never done it in one sitting. Or if I have, it's only happened like once. Like I've always had to like chop it in half. And so that means that the second half of this album, I really had to try listen to. And I think maybe, just maybe, the average listener might exhaust themselves on, you know, the hour and a half, or whatever it is. And so maybe that could be why as well. The ending is not as memorable. And it's probably a good little, like, for later, the endings are so strong. Like for the next 3, like I think the endings are really good, and so this is a little bit different to the others in that way too. Look, I gave the last one number 5. I would give this one number 3. I would give it number 3. It's close, but I'm going to give this one number 3. I really like parts of it, but again, the vocal delivery is not something that I just, you know, I do find a little bit at times, just, or at least when I first heard it was a bit like this. I would have liked a few more harmonies, but generally speaking, yeah, I'm going to
You're correct. You're correct. It's a number 3. Yeah.
Okay. So that's good. So, okay, so we move on to then, I guess, the next one, which is an actual number 3. So Act number 3. This is, I think this one's a bit of a favorite by many of the fans. For those that, I don't know if I've even mentioned it this episode, but I saw the Deer Hunter, hence the shirt, a week ago live. And I was amazed by how many of the fans were just like yelling every lyric. Like these were devout. Like they know everything. I was amazed by that. And so anyway, my point is just that that I think this next one is a huge fan favorite. And so so what do you think? Do you concur with that, Jacob? Act 3?
I really love this album. That's the last one I actually discovered, like really got into, and I don't really know why. Well, actually, I have an idea. I think on first listens, it doesn't have as many earworms as, say, Act 5, Act 4, and Act 2. So that might be why it took me a bit longer to get into this album. But in preparation for this, I listened to it a bunch because it was the one that I wasn't as familiar with. And I really, really fell in love with the album. The opener, Writings on the Wall, is great. I love how it really sets up the scene of the album story-wise too. The transitions they really have improved since Act 1 and Act 2 as well. There are a couple spots that could be smoother, but in general, I really like how it goes from one song to the next. Mustard Gas is one of my favorites, and I love how they use that motif in a bunch of songs on this album, and also on Act 5, maybe on Act 4, I'm not sure. The Tank is a banger. Saved is beautiful. Acoustic Break. I really like The Thief as well. They do a lot of stuff like with the whammy pedal in the song. You rarely really notice the guitar parts that much in their music, so I really like when it does get its time to shine. That's one of those. And I would say it probably has the best finale of any Act album, in my opinion. The last track
Ooh.
is beautiful. I really love it. It's between that one and Act 5, I would say. But it's that song that almost made me put it above Act 2.
Wow.
Because every time I listen to it, I'm just, okay, I want to hit replay on this album right now. So it's actually at number 4, but it was really fighting for third place.
Yeah. Simon.
Yeah, so this is the one that I actually had heard before this little project, and I mean, I like it. I like it. I think there's a bit more of those gritty vocals here, and I also think I notice a bit more of like, I don't know if I'm supposed to call it like carnival music, where it's like either like those oompa oompa 3/4, or like this shuffle that, yeah, makes me think of like carnival music at least.
Like, go get your gun.
Yeah.
Get your gun.
Yeah,
get your gun.
that's not per se like, yeah, well, there's a lot of 3/4 at least in this one as well, but and also some just pretty stuff at the end, just like Jacob says, and there's usually never it's not the standard minor or major chords. It takes some different. I'm not a big music theory guy, but I noticed that, okay, if you are, you can find some interesting chord progressions and analyze that as well, because it really plays beautifully at times here. This is, I think, yet another step up from the previous record. I rank this one as number 2.
Oh. What did you give it, Jacob? What did you say?
It's number 4 for me.
Yeah, okay. All right. I thought so. Okay. I understand why you've put this at number 2, Simon. As I said, this is a big fan favorite. Like, they love Go Get Your Gun and Mustard Gas, and The Tank, I think, is a big favorite as well. For me, I don't know, there's something about this which isn't as inspired. Like, the protagonist goes off to war, finds a relative or two, and a few things goes on in the story here. And so it's kind of like, this is where his life really, really changes again. But for me, this chapter is not something that I connect with as much. So I think musically it becomes more fun. It shoots off in a few different directions. I think the production gets better. I think the singing goes up. I think there's some really cool stuff in there. I think the Poison Woman, or whatever that song's called, is actually quite creatively like there's something really cool about it, which I think people should check out, just for the sake of really seeing how this sort of is sort of woven into the albums. But this one here, look, it's good, but I would give it a 4th place as well. And I think it's in some ways, I think it's better than 2, and I like it more than Act 2, that is. But it doesn't quite hit me in the feels, and maybe even the depth of composition, I think, even though it's maybe a little bit more accessible, might be a better way to put it as well. And I think the depth of the previous act would mean that I just narrowly give that a little bit more. And like you said, I think he starts this album well, and I think he ends it pretty well too. And yeah, it's good. This is where we start to get into the Deer Hunter are really good, in my opinion, sort of category. So yeah, okay. So I'm definitely gonna lock it in at 4th place. So Jacob said 4th, Simon said 2nd, and I said 4th.
Yeah.
All right. Now we get into Act 4, where for me it all began, really. Jacob, hit us up. What is your thoughts on Rebirth and Reprise?
All right. I really, really love this album. Act 4 and Act 5 were fighting for first place. They've been fighting for first place for like 2 years, ever since I discovered the band. And wow, the arrangements on this album and Act 5 as well, are super complex and super varied. Like, you get a bunch of different string arrangements, brass arrangements, percussions. I've been showing the last two albums to a bunch of my musician friends, and everybody's freaking out for different reasons. I have a percussionist friend who fell in love with all the arrangements. Like, hey, they got marimba in this and everything. It's super impressive. There's obviously beautiful songs and melodies throughout. One of my favorites is Remembered. The sort of Mixolydian theme in there is beautiful. Waves is a favorite. A Night on the Town has an amazing chorus. That's the song that I would want to see live. Like, if I saw a show and they ended with A Night on the Town, that would be like best time of my life. The transitions between songs are super smooth. I really love, like I said, how they use the orchestra to kind of blend the songs together. It's really inventive the way that they do that. Another favorite is There Anybody Here? One of their only songs with a guitar solo, I think. And wow, that guitar solo is amazing. I'm almost mad that they don't have more, because this one is so incredible. And the one thing I would say is, I think you'll disagree with me probably, but I feel like Ouroboros is a bit underwhelming as a finale to the album, but that would be my only complaint, and that would land this album at number 2.
Yeah, okay.
But it's super close.
Simon, what do you think, my friend?
Yeah, I really think there can be no doubt here, actually. I think this is the best one. To me, at least, according to my tastes. I actually absolutely agree. A Night on the Town, killer track. Like, the first time you hear it, it's like, oh, I've heard this before, haven't I? Because it's such a, perfect killer. King of Swords I also think is super cool, and I think the Squeaky Wheel I also appreciate it a lot.
Yeah. That's been on a lot of playlists of mine. Just because of its upbeat tempo, you can put it on in the background. Yeah. Anyway, continue.
And I mean, I think there's a very big difference between this one and the 3 albums before, and maybe that also has to do with how the band evolved, because they released 2 albums or 2.5 albums, I think an EP and 2 albums in between, and I don't know, there's also a couple of years in between, so I guess it's kind of a different band as well. I think I noticed a lot of difference with the bass. I know that they've switched who plays the bass with this band. I think
this is bass? I could be incorrect here.
They have a different bass player here than on the other ones at least.
Yeah, I think this is where, though, they really decided this is a band as opposed to a solo project by Casey, right? With and I know that everyone's
Casey played bass on the first one that I've seen, and then they had some other guy, but here there's yet another guy. Sorry for my total lack of knowledge about this band, but yeah, and sometimes it might be a little bit it's a little bit more poppy. It's a little bit more accessible, I would say. Especially Waves is poppy, or what is it called? Waves. Number 3, Waves. Yeah. And maybe a bit too cheesy almost for me. You also notice that there's more strings and that kind of stuff, and a little less brass, I would say. Maybe I'm wrong here. At least what I noticed was less trombone than previously, which I absolutely can appreciate. I don't know if yeah. I mean, I just think this is like the perfect mix. Like, it gets better and better, and this is the peak. This is the peak. It's nice. It's velvet to my ears, this album.
So you've rated it as number 1. Okay.
For sure.
Wow.
And it's not a competition. Like, there's no competition.
It's a competition. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Now I'm just figuring out who you put at number 5, and I'm kind of freaking out.
Yeah, that's interesting.
I note one note that I have about this album is less Mumford and Sons Mumford and Sons banjo bullshit. I put down like
Ooh.
it's you know it's more yeah. Maybe it's the trombone that I like that they put less on this one.
This is, as I said, my first real experience, and this is where I fell in love. Like this is an album that I would rank in my top, I don't know, however many albums. If I was to have it, there would have to be in the discussion. It's one of my favorites of all time. I think it's exquisite, and I've played this like just on streaming. It's like over 30 times easily, and so this is something that for me I have really obsessed out on. I have loved this album, back to front. I disagree with you in that I think it's got a fantastic ending. I think Ouroboros, or whatever it's called, is one of my favorite songs ever done by this guy, or by the band, and I think it's exquisite. But totally appreciate you might not feel that way. I think Waves was the song that I disliked the most on early hearings because of the beginning, and I think it's that kind of thing at the beginning that I just go, oh, and that makes me want to skip it. However, now that I have played this like over 50 times easily, it's great. And I think the thing about this entire album is the composition is wonderful. The way that it moves in between different tracks, I think, is fantastic. I think that the symphonic arrangements and the complexity and the different layers that are in there are all just so beautifully sort of harmonizing. And when they're not trying to be harmonizing and they're trying to be a little bit jarry, I think that he does a fantastic job of it as well. I think it is meticulously put together, and it's a work of art. So I think this is a this is a very, very, very good album. I love the story. I love the upbeat optimism that sits and resides beneath this compared to the previous three as well. It's kind of like the turning point. It's kind of like, I'm now the mayor of the city kind of thing, and I'm going to do all these great things, and I'm going to pull down the evil, things that go on. And it's got like this like vibe of that, but somehow throughout the entirety of this, there's just this, the undertones, which is, this is a decrepit, horrible city, and this is he's battling in a way, and he's being bribed, and like, it paints it so beautifully. And I think the complexity of getting that feeling to be correct is something that I never read about when people are like talking about this album, but I think that is so hard to manage. It's hard to manage these sounds, which, look, and I'm not a music guy, you two are the music guys here, but the way he uses what sounds to me like a major scale, right, to have this bright, optimistic, uplifting stuff going on, while at the same time having this like menace and drop-offs, and his use of like the opposite side, like I'm guessing it's minor stuff as well, just completely like changes the vibe of some things that are really bright. And so, I don't know. I also like, this is where recurring themes really start to pick up a little bit, or at least he plants a few seeds, which come out later in the next one. And I think this is where some of my favorite sort of motifs in the series are as well. So after this incredibly long-winded like fanfare, I'm giving it number 2.
Ooh. And
yeah.
I would like to say, it's not that I don't like Ouroboros. It's just its place in the album to me. It's like for Black Sandy Beaches. They're beautiful songs. I just don't feel they end the album the way that is gonna make me go, okay, I gotta listen to it back right now.
No, I totally know what you mean, and I feel like, and this is it. Like, these are acts. And so when I heard this album, I thought of it like an act. Like, I can't deny that this should be on a stage. I want to watch this on a stage. And so the first 3 albums, or maybe first 2 albums, I don't so much want to. But once you get into sort of act 3, 4, and 5, I want to watch this. Like, I want to see it unfolding in front of me, the stories, and I want like pictures, or I want actors, or I want these things. And so with each act, I think, I know what you're saying, but to me, it's kind of like just before the curtain closes, and it's like a wrap up, like it's got this emotional like closing. And so you're right in that it doesn't go full circle to make you go, yeah, like repeat and just restart the album again. It creates like a space of, to me anyway, like introspection. And I want to sit in that mood a little bit at the end of the album and go, huh. And I think if there was an intermission, then throw you into Act 5 or whatever, that would make sense to me. And so I personally loved that. And so I love your interpretation. I love what you're saying as well. But to me, it's that attribute that I kind of like about it.
Oh, yeah, that's a great way of looking at it. Yeah.
And look, I mean, maybe this is turning lemons into lemonade. I don't know, but but I'm going with it. All right, that means we're up to number 5, Act number 5. Jacob, let's go.
All right. Well, Act 5 is the album that I discovered The Deer Hunter with. Everything I've said about Act 4 applies here. Great melodies, great songs, great arrangements, great transitions. Love everything about it. The opener, Regress, is gorgeous.
Yeah.
Super complex composition too, for like a 1-minute track or something like that. Love how it leads into this second song. It contains probably my favorite song by The Deer Hunter, which is Light.
Ooh, yep.
Yeah. Even out of the context of the story, it's just something that's so relatable, so so emotional. In their arrangements, there's one thing they do that I haven't seen done a lot, which is they use banjos on heavy riffs. Like, I think it's in the most Cursed of Hands or something like that, where there's a big, heavy guitar riff, and it's doubled by the banjo. And the vibe it gives is like unlike anything else. It gives like the metal folk influence both into one, and I think it's really cool. The production and songs are a bit darker than on Act 4, which I personally enjoy. And what I would say gives it the slightest of edges over Act 4 for me is the final song, A New Beginning, that I think is expertly executed. And it's might be my favorite finale, or it's either that or the final song from Life and Death from Act 3. I love how they use a bunch of different themes from the different albums on The March and in The New Beginning. And Mr. Usher is awesome and has no right to be on this album, but I love it. like you said about the Poison Woman, to me, they're kind of like Disney villain songs.
Yeah.
And I love everything about it. Like, it has no right to be on a indie prog emo album, but I love it.
Yeah.
So that's my number 1.
Simon.
Yeah, Jacob, I just want to say the friendship that we had, it was short, but I really enjoyed it. If you want to end it now, I can't hold you to blame or whatever. But I'm a bit torn when we make these rankings, because sometimes with these bands that you haven't listened to and you have to catch up, it's not the best way to enjoy it. It's really. It should really be when you're in the mood for it, and that probably plays a part in why I rank this last.
Dum dum dum.
Because how I said that Waves, I think, is a bit too cheesy. It is a bit too poppy, and okay. I think objectively, Jacob, you're more of a pop guy than I am. I really like, the difficult stuff that makes people sad. And this album, I don't know, they just take this a step further with the pop. It's more strings and more, it's a bit. The velvet that was in my ears is now getting a bit too fluffy, I'm almost a little bit suffocated from it, or it's just that it's the 5th album that I listen to here, and I feel like, okay, I should really give it one more listen, but I just can't fathom myself to do it. So the joy kind of went out of me a little bit with this one. It's probably my own fault and not this album, or it's just that it does not communicate with me on my, I think the grit is gone here. Do you guys think there's a lot of grit in this album? No, right?
I love this album. So you
Yeah, but
continue.
is
I'll
it?
give you my
But
retort.
but you know, with like Act 2, 3, you know, you have some grit. It's like in the voice and you know, it's a bit too
Yeah,
soft for me.
it's definitely more contained. Like vocally, especially. Like on Act 2, he's going crazy on every song. It's more contained, but he does have some beautiful, like high energy vocal moments. Like at the top of bridges on
But if,
the first two tracks and everything. But I do see what you mean, though. It's not as indie emo as the first ones
exactly.
are.
No,
Definitely. Yeah.
I almost feel a little bit like this is you know, I hate it when people call music sell out, but it feels like it's trying a little bit to sell it to sell out it. But you know, I'm a fucking layman when it comes to this band, so you know, I'm not gonna dwell on it any longer. I'm gonna give it another shot in the future as well. But right now, it is my least favorite.
Okay, so to follow up on what you were saying about us doing this, I found the same thing with a few of our discography rankings as well. It's good because it forces your hand to listen to something that you might have wanted to or been putting
I have no
off.
regrets of doing them. I plan to do plenty in the future, but yeah.
Yeah, and but what I was gonna, so I totally appreciate where you're coming from with that. I guess is the point. But also having the thing I love about this is we get to have a discussion about it. We get to come together and then afterwards go, oh shit, I fucked that up, didn't I? And I think like, and also we can notice things like mood, temperament, expectation versus reality, like all of these kinds of things, which have an impact on our sort of biases and look, I'm gonna maintain our friendship,
You
but
know
only
what?
just Simon because of
But it's
this point.
slightly nudged.
But I'm going to forgive you, but you're going to re-listen to this 100 times and come back to me and tell me it's brilliant.
Yeah, but you know, like I'm sitting here, I hear you guys are super passionate about it, or you know, I'm guessing you will be passionate about it as well, Josh. You know, or
Yeah.
like, yeah, and then I just feel a little bit like, oh man, I want to be in the club as well, but sorry, I'm just
Don't
not.
give in to the peer pressure, Simon. It's okay. Jacob and I just clearly have a better musical palette and understanding. No, look, jokes aside, I get what you're saying. But
It's all
for me,
umami.
yeah. For me though, this sadness that pervades this album and this emotional like overturn from the squeaky wheel, like light and playful and optimistic with the bad undercurrents, everything comes home to roost here, and he realizes that like this is bad. This sucks, and you know everything from look. I love this album. This is my number one hand, like, and it's really close. Like 4 and 5 are to me the same album. They're kind of like the first side and the second side of really what goes on. And I think they were built so closely together with an understanding of where each act lies that I see this as kind of the dark side of the moon, maybe. And, you know, metaphorically speaking, not a reference to any other things. But in saying that, like, I love this album. And I think, to me, it's all the callbacks, which some people hate, I love. So The March is one of my favorite like tracks on this because of its clear homage to the album beforehand. And it's literally repeating the same things, but every time, like the line, like there's so many ways to die or whatever the line is, that gives me goosebumps because of like the I think there's actually a grit in how Casey like conveys this message. And it might not be with that emo, like, you know, harsh throat, like scratching distortion, but it's got more in it to me. And I actually think there's a higher emotional sort of scope that he plays with within this album. And whenever he alludes to something in the past, like maybe the flame is
Flame is gone,
is
the
gone.
fire remains.
Yeah, like that as well, which is the old motive from the first one or second album, or no, first album.
First one.
Yeah, and like all of these things, it just to me, it's just kind of like it just hits the home run. But I think because I like the other stuff, and then he's kind of like paying homage to the older stuff, but's tweaking it and changing it. Like I've read that some people think that's lazy. It's like he's just reproducing a song of old, but to me, it's the opposite. It's actually incredibly thoughtful. It's incredibly meticulous. It's bringing you round full circle. It's giving you a sense of like progression and also a different way of saying the same thing, which just gives a different vibe. And that is cool to me, like really cool. I think Mr. Usher is the weakest song on this track by a long shot. However, I love it as well. And it's so like comedically, like you said, like a Disney villain. I've never really quite thought of it like that. But in saying that, it does also flip the soundscape a bit, and it sort of sets up the last part of the album. And so I like the pacing change, if you can put it that way. And I don't know, like I think this is a good album. Glory is amazing. The March is good. The Moon is great. I love this album, and this cemented this band in my head as one of my favorite bands. Like I just think it's great. So this is my number one. I think I could consider number 4 as my number one as well. They're so closely linked, but to me, the mood being a little bit more somber, a little bit less jarring, or it's kind of like when you bite on something that's too sweet. It does have a little bit of a feeling of that maybe in Act 4 at times. I know it's deliberate, but to me, this one doesn't have any of that. It's just, with the exception of Mr. Usher, with the exception of that, I think it's...
Did you guys end up with the exact same ranking?
I believe so, yeah.
I think we might, and I'm really surprised by that. Really surprised, but it looks like it's the same, yeah.
Would you guys want to repeat that? What is...
My number one is Act 5, which were the same. Act number 4 was my number 2. Act number 2 was my number 3. Act 3 was my 4. Gosh, that's hard to say. And then number
Act 1 was 5.
Yeah, so we're the same. Yeah.
Crazy. Yeah. Just for the record, I had Act 4 was my number 1, Act 3 was my number 2, Act 2 was my number 3, Act 1 was my number 4, and Act 5 was my number 5. Yeah.
You might have to re-listen.
It sounds like it. It sure sounds like it. Yeah.
But the thing is as well, if you're not familiar, I don't think Act 5 hits as hard.
I can understand that with what you're telling.
And the story, like it's because it's not finished, right? And that's the other thing is Act 6 is just too big, and they went, if we can't do it live, we're not going to do it like as a live action show, I think, or at least that's what I read somewhere. And so but to me, I could only imagine what that would turn out to be, like, what an Act 6 and how it would finish up. And I'd love to see how the arc of the story completely comes out as well. But I think as a conceptual piece, this is big, it's bold, and it's just really interesting. And it deals with like humanity and its depravity and I think it's powerful because of it. Simon, as someone who wasn't the hugest Deer Hunter fan, what's your summary or after doing this? If you were to make it short, sweet, simple, what do you think of the Deer Hunter to those listening?
Yeah, I mean, it's a good band. It's out of my usual scope of listening, I would say. It maybe more than I expected to, because especially those early albums sound so very much like emo, which is not my standard kind of music. I would say start with Act 4. I just think it's heads and shoulders above the rest. That said, to be 100% honest, listen to Jacob's album first. I think it's even better. Yeah, I mean. That's my summary.
Oh, thank you.
Redeem the friendship.
They're now friends again. That's right. Jacob, what do you think? Like, you gave it a decent summary before too, but just to wrap up the episode and everything, what would you think?
Yeah, well, I think the way they build their albums, they're gonna be my most anticipated band for a while. Like they announced Sonya. They released a new song yesterday.
Yep.
Out of all the bands that are releasing music this year, like there's Neil Moore's band, which is they're one of my favorites, but I can't wait to see what the Deer Hunter do next. And just for reference, because I did put them in order too, for Antimai and Migrant Returned.
Oh, yes.
So Antimai would actually be between number 4 and number 3, so between Act 3 and Act 2 for me.
Yep.
I really like all the brass arrangements in this album, all the funk influences. It's very different from what they've done in the Act series. And I really like how it's a shorter length, too. It's about 40 minutes, so it's really digestible. And then Migrant Return, which a lot of people have as their least favorite. I use the Return version. It's like the remixed and rearranged version of the album. I actually have a number 3 between Act 5 and Act 4. I think they have some of the most beautiful melodies they have on any album. Shame is a great track. Let Go is in my top 3 for sure. Deer Hunter songs. So yeah, there you go. I love them.
Look, I'm very excited about the Indigo Child as well, and that entire arc and the new stuff that they're looking at working on. I listened to that single as soon as it dropped just to get a feeling for what's happening. Antimai was a great album. I would agree. I'd probably put it in at sort of like 4th spot, maybe 3rd spot. I think I absolutely love parts of it though. So like there's just some parts of that album which I just think is so good. Do you know like the Police Ring? What one's that one? Whatever that's called.
Oh, it's so good.
Like this is much more Simon probably too.
It sounded like
sounds like Sonic music, like Sonic the Hedgehog music.
It sounded like that camel riff.
Oh, I know what you're talking about. Actually, there's something in that. Oh wow! I'm gonna have to put them over each other and have a listen. But
Super Twister, is that what it was?
I have no idea. I'm not familiar enough, but I know what you're talking about.
On the Mirage.
Cool. Yeah, on Mirage. It's like the only Camel album I've listened to. So it has to be on that. But anyway, I agree. I think Antimai, I think it's really good and it's exciting. It's a scene builder, right? So the whole point of Antimai is to prep you nearly for the world that you're about to be thrust into in this Indigo Child stuff. So look, I'm excited as well, Jacob. I'm on board and I'm looking forward to checking it out. And I think that based on the first single, I'm going to try not to listen to the other singles. Try my best because I don't want to ruin the album. I want to listen to it as a whole digestible piece. But that should be very exciting.
So just for clearance here, the new single that was dropped is from what? Is it part of a?
So he's doing it. They are doing another conceptual, like brand new work of art. Yeah.
Oh, brand new. Okay.
So this is nothing to do with the Deer Hunters like story arc and those acts. This is a separate thing. And so they're doing like a sci-fi inspired concept album. And Antimai was the world building, and that was released maybe 3 years ago or something.
So it's the Antimai universe. So
exactly. Or the city or the planet or whatever it is. And then you have the story that's going to unfold. And this is the beginning, I think, of the story. They've released like a single or two, which is the Indigo Child. And I think that's the protagonist in this instance. It's like a female protagonist too. But yeah, so they're doing some works in those sort of realms, which is cool, and I'm very excited about it too. When I saw them live, I have to say, for those that haven't, Casey can really sing. Like he can really sing. Like he was flawless throughout this, and I thought to me it feels like throughout the journey of these acts, he's really like worked out how he wants to use his instrument. And he's obviously moving a little bit further away from the emo stuff. But what he does have is just this really solid, what sounds like such a strong, powerful, and well crafted, like, and worked on and honed, like, vessel of it's so good. And so I think that is also expressed within the Act series too. And also he's now new projects. I think he's a really strong singer in his latter works, and that really stands out to me. So maybe check out his new stuff too. Yeah, look, we should probably call it there, guys. We've been on for a bit. Look, Jacobs, thank you so much for jumping on board. I hope you had fun. I hope it wasn't.
Oh, I did.
Yeah, cool.
Nice. Cool.
And we're so glad to have had you jump on the show, and thanks so much for sort of reaching out and chatting about these things in the past. It's like on Instagram. It's been wonderful. So thank you. We'd love to. I mean, I'm just going to call it, but we'd love to have you back. You've obviously got a good ear, as opposed to my co-host here. So can't believe he put Act 5 as number 1. So we might even have to get you back in the future. If you're excited about any future projects, or if you ever want to chat about the stuff that you do, or something you've listened to, hit me up and we'll have to do that. For those that tuned in from home, thank you so much for joining us today. Thank you, Simon, my friend. I love you still, don't worry. Thank you everyone for your time. Please like and subscribe. Please check out Jacob's stuff. It's definitely worth it. The Passing was a magnificent album, and I definitely think it's worth the 10 years worth of hard slogging to get it perfect, and I can't wait for the next one, if it's released in 5 years or 10 years. I just don't mind. Yeah, well done. Anyway, thanks all. Peace out. We'll chat to you later. Thank you so much for joining us, and we'll catch you next time.